have a Dave Filoni hat?
It's Dave Filoni-esque.
All right.
Okie dokie. Okay. Hey Kyle, what's
Oh, oh, hello.
what's up? What's up? Hey buddy.
Hi. I'm a little hurt. I want you to know that.
Pourquoi?
Well, you see, I had a birthday 2 days ago, and who did I not hear from other than you?
Oh my god, you're right. It was
You're
your
bad and you
birthday.
should feel bad. It
No, I
was
literally
my
even like,
birthday.
dude, I even like literally set a calendar reminder too. I don't even have like a good excuse. It was just sheer neglect because I
Mm,
did nothing on Saturday other than sit around and get
mm.
very baked and play video games. I am a bad friend. Like that just makes it worse. But listeners out there,
It's all
I'm a
right.
bad friend. Well, I'm very sorry. Happy belated birthday, buddy.
Thank you.
How does it feel
I
being 48 years old now?
48 feels just like 31. It's super weird.
Ah,
But
goodness. Yeah, what'd you do?
we originally we were gonna go camping, but
Mm-hmm.
our weather ended up being just really bad.
I'll bleep it out. But
So
where were you guys gonna go camping?
vigilante campground.
Ah, fuck. Such a nice campground too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's $15 for all that. Would have been
Yeah.
great. But yeah, the weather got bad. So my wife was just like, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't care if we do anything. And she set up
No idea.
a whole big thing.
Oh,
I was like, okay, don't tell me
okay.
anything. And we ended up doing an escape room.
No way. Cool.
Yeah.
Like they're
So
in town, or did you guys go?
in town.
I
Yeah,
didn't even know they had one.
they have one downtown.
Like new, or like it's been there.
I don't know how new it is, but I've definitely looked it up within the past few years, and it's here.
Huh.
But the way they did it was actually a little bit different. To
Mm-hmm.
where for this one, it wasn't in an actual room; it was outside, more of like a scavenger hunt.
Oh, interesting.
But it was like kind of historical locations downtown is where the GPS on the
Cool.
iPad kind of left you, and you had to
Huh.
solve all these puzzles, and it was super cool. Like I
That's
love
interesting.
stuff like that, so it
Yeah.
was super cool. Then we went out to dinner at my favorite restaurant in town, which I'm sure you've been to.
Bleep. Yeah.
Yeah, it was windbagged.
Oh. Well. Did you guys go next door afterwards, or to the Dorothy's, or?
No, we just well, we did the escape room first, which
Yeah.
took about an hour. And then went to dinner, and that took about 2 hours because they were so freaking busy because they had the Pride Parade the same day.
Yes.
So it was
Yes.
just it was going nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So missed out on the
Cool.
parade, but
Yeah.
I don't like standing around and all that anyway. Just watching
Yeah.
things go by. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, I mean the
it was cool to
parade.
be down
Yeah.
there.
The show is way more cool outside of the parade, but yeah.
Yeah, it would be. I my wife on Thursday or Friday went to like a drag show bingo sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing,
Drag bingo.
and like came back with a bunch of prizes and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and I was like, that is super cool.
Yeah.
So, but I've never been to anything like that. I'd like to, but with like one of us having to watch the kids,
Yeah.
one of us having to it's I don't know how it would really work, but I'd be into going to see some of that
It's
because
pretty cool for like
I've watched
that part
RuPaul
of the
quite a bit,
country.
and I think that stuff's pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and it's always I think it's always better whenever you have like local artist too. But hey, give me just 2 seconds. There's like that major
Sure.
glare on my glasses. I'm gonna swap out my glasses.
Oh, the blue. Yeah, you got like a blue little thing there. I'm all alone. There's no one here beside
Side of
me.
me. Um. Okay. Is that better? Yeah, that's not as glary. It's still a glare, but that's not as bad.
No, beer
Anyways,
one is down.
yeah. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Rogue, made in Newport, Oregon.
Okay.
And
Cool.
this is
Cool. Cool.
their honeybee Kolsch.
That actually sounds really good. I'm just doing
It's
Stella
very good.
Artois because basic. Um.
Fancy, I
You know what I
guess.
actually really miss is
Hmm.
LNC's seltzers. And I
Never
know you're
been
not a super big seltzer guy, but if you can ever go get the prickly pear seltzer, it's really fucking good.
prickly pear. Okay.
In
I mean, I
fact,
don't
like,
mind White Claw or whatever,
yeah,
but only in the summer, really.
I need to find a way to like get a larger quantity from it, or well, from there to like back here, without like driving. Don't know how that's gonna work, but
I mean, and here you can't send alcohol through the mail, so
yeah, yeah.
which
I
is
it's probably
whatever.
gonna have to be whenever I drive back up there, eventually.
Yeah,
But well, that's cool. It sounds like a pretty fun birthday.
yeah. And then I saw the new Ninja Turtles movie
Okay, yeah,
on Thursday, and I mean, you like that
the
animation style that Spider-Man is doing with the multiverse stuff or
mm-hmm.
Spider-Verse stuff, you're gonna like Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
Soundtrack was really cool. It had like this '90s like laid back hip hop sort of stuff, like A
yeah,
Tribe Called
yeah.
Quest, and Ice Cube was the villain, so that was
Interesting.
super cool. Paul Rudd was in it. Post Malone was in it. John Cena was in it. You couldn't see him.
Yeah, it does kind of have like a star-studded cast, from what I saw.
Yeah, Seth. I mean, obviously Seth Rogen was the
Mm-hmm.
writer and producer, but he was also a voice actor. It was just super good. Like, there wasn't anything I disliked about it at all.
Hmm. Two thumbs up.
Absolutely, go see it, and if you have a kid, bring them with you. So,
I might actually go watch that this weekend. I'm gonna go see Oppenheimer for a third time this weekend.
geez, I haven't even seen it one time.
You need to. I mean, it's like I did the same thing with Interstellar. Like I have such a deep adoration and just like fanboy fangirl ness over like anything Christopher Nolan, and so
Mm-hmm.
I watch it incessantly. I mean, there's a few movies that I've watched like a lot. I watched I watched Inception 4 times. I watched Interstellar. I watched Interstellar 6 times. I watched the first Dune like 4 times. I mean, I feel like every time I watch it, especially in a theater, I get something else.
Oh,
Um, and I feel like there's some movies that are just such a better experience in theaters instead of watching at home. And Dune was one of them, just because of how eggmantic it is. Oppenheimer though is too. So anybody that's listening, Kyle included, if you're interested in seeing it at any point, I would highly recommend you go see it in theaters because that does give a truly different experience. Experience. Experience.
experienced.
Experience. This time, so the first time I watched it at a dinner theater, like one of the ones that like you can get food and they serve you food and everything inside the theater.
Oh, yeah, I've been to those. Yeah, they're
Um,
nice.
it wasn't as great of an experience. I don't know if like they just kind of put that on the back burner, like after COVID, but like my first several times of going to that was whenever I was in college, and it was an amazing experience. Being able to get beer, nachos, whatever you wanted,
Mm-hmm.
like while you're watching the
Yep.
movie. Except now it's just not it's not good. Granted, because AMC is based out of here, that is the theater that we have the most in the Midwest. And so maybe that's why I just haven't found like a better theater yet. But this time of watching Oppenheimer, I actually went to the Dolby Digital real, like the whole surround sound, Dolby Atmos, everything experience. And that was
Okay.
insane. That was really, really cool. Um, the score seemed like elevated. Like it maybe just because it did do like 3D surround sound with the score even. Because we've talked about that a little bit, like spatial audio,
Yeah.
Dolby Digital
Yeah.
audio. Yeah. So watching it at the Dolby Digital theater, you get that same experience. So there was just really interesting things that I picked up on watching it the second time, more specifically with the score, which just continues to blow me away and continues to just get better and better. Like I know we talked about it at length the last episode but Ludwig really blew it out of the park. I mean, like, Hans Zimmer has kind of like set the tone for me for like a cinematic movie and like a great
Mm-hmm.
score. But like, I dare to say that like Ludwig, specifically in this movie,
Good.
gave us
Yeah.
maybe a better score than even what we got in Interstellar. And that's a lot coming from me because Interstellar
Even
is my
like
favorite movie score.
his stuff with Black Panther, like I
Yeah,
was sold there. Like that soundtrack is incredible.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's just it's insane. Even the nuances that they use this time, or the nuances that you notice once you watch it a second time, I should say. You pick up on things like Nolan has been known for using sound to perpetuate a emotional idea. And there's
Mhm.
a point after the project is done where, spoiler alert, sorry. I mean, it happened. It's history. It's not really a spoiler. But there's a point in the movie where once the project is done, once the project did officially complete, once they did the successful test of the Trinity test, and once they finalized creating the weapons, they were gone. And like that, all of the work that everyone was doing was just completely taken out of their hands. And there's a sound that they use as a means to perpetuate Oppenheimer's emotion surrounding like his whole project that he just did and the father that he was to this project for the past 3 years had just disappeared. And it's actually used. So obviously they transported him via truck and they put him in big wooden crates, kind of similar to TWC's. But it's actually the chains that they used to secure the crates to the truck. With that loose chain, while it was driving down the road, it was hitting the truck and it was making that noise that a chain makes, right? But they use that for almost like 2 additional minutes after we see that disappear. And that's supposed to represent his anxiety and supposed to represent his, like, it's supposed to represent his anxiety around trying to be contacted after the bombs left and then ultimately after they got dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so it's just what they do is just so interesting, and there's so many things that even like their simplistic use of like light has such a deeper meaning. And it's just so cool. You need to go watch it so we can actually talk about it like in greater detail. But yeah,
Okay.
it's so good. So yeah, anybody who's listening, probably now my favorite movie, like non-Star Wars movie. So go watch it. Outside of that, I didn't do shit, bro. Went and hung out with
Nothing
my
all
family.
week.
Not really, yeah, no. Hung out with my family,
Mm.
and that was about it. Oh, had Lebanese food. Not Lebanese food. Ethiopian food. Tried Ethiopian food.
How was that? I've never
Dude, it was
even.
really good. It was really good. I was shocked. So the restaurant is actually vegetarian, which I don't think is as common in Ethiopian cuisine.
Hmm.
But it's just interesting. So you know me, I'm a big history nerd, and I think it's always interesting that a culture's food can actually speak to the history of the nation. And it was very interesting how many Indian or what we'd like make akin to Indian spices. It was interesting how many Indian spices were in Ethiopian cuisine, even though Ethiopia is like literally in Africa. So it's just very interesting. It was legume forward, so there was like a lot of lentils, split peas, stuff like
Hmm.
that. But the spices were very intense and aromatic, kind of like what you get out of Indian food, where it's hard to describe the flavor because it's such a specific flavor. But the bread, and I can't even remember what the bread's name is, but it's like a flatbread, and like most African cuisines, it's very hands centric. Like you don't really have like forks and spoons and all that stuff. And so the bread is what they use as like a means to like get it up in there, like get chicken or whatever else you're eating like into your mouth. And the bread itself
Hmm.
was like a weird like spongy texture. I'll put a picture up, of it for all the viewers. Um, and if you have that tryptanophobia or whatever that's called, spoiler alert or not spoiler alert, but trigger warning. But yeah, it's just so good. It was so good. It was shockingly really affordable, and I definitely will be adding it to like my belt of like restaurants to go to. So, outside of that, I didn't really do anything. Kind of a lazy weekend, and then next weekend I'm just gonna go back to that dog park. I think I'm gonna start doing that every Sunday from Ada, which is like a theme park for dogs, which is cool. But yeah, that was about it. Well, I completely glazed over the fact that this is NerdPod, so we're gonna pause here.
It sure is.
We're gonna go back and record that. Do you want to do the welcome, ladies and gentlemen?
Sure.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
All right. Welcome to episode 10.
Oh,
Who thought we'd get this far? Episode 10 of N3rdPod, as the French say.
Okay. Sorry, French listeners. He's Kyle. He's the stepdad of the podcast. He's the stepdad Gary of the podcast. Speaking of Gary.
My stepdad's name is Gary.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
We also know Gary, and I love the guy. I love that Gary. That Gary.
I'm working with him tomorrow, I think.
I love him. Tell him I miss him. Anyways, hi guys. Welcome to NerdPod. Okay. And
so
this is going to maybe.
I texted you. Okay, so I texted you earlier in the week that I had a question for you that was Star Wars related. Do you remember that? Do you recall that?
I do recall that. I will be honest with you.
Okay.
The way you phrased that question initially, my anxiety, mama.
Went through the roof?
Yes. Yep. I was like, oh my God.
We need to talk.
Is he actually, like, I know we joked about this, but is he actually going to ask me to, like, step down or something?
No. So my buddy Ryan that I play Dungeons and Dragons with, he asked me the same question. I couldn't give him a straight answer.
Okay.
I thought it would be perfect for NerdPod.
I don't know what makes you think that. We don't. This isn't about Star Wars. We don't talk about Star Wars here.
Never, ever.
Never.
We're gonna start right now. So
go ahead.
Who would win in a fight? Cal Kestis or Ahsoka Tano?
Ahsoka, hands down. That's so easy.
Really?
Yes.
No thoughts
Absolutely.
whatsoever?
No thought at all.
Really?
No. Absolutely.
What led you to that? Because I couldn't answer.
Like because
I couldn't
she was trained by the greatest Jedi of all time. Was Cal Kestis? Nah. She was, though. Like, she was trained by the greatest Jedi of all time. Obi-Wan, Anakin, Yoda, Mace Windu whenever he's not deciding to be a complete asshole. Like, seriously, though. I mean, like, it's nothing against Cal Kestis, but when you look at the overall power that Ahsoka has versus him, first off, she's killed more than one person using Force alone. Second off, she has the strongest, arguably, the strongest saber skills out of any Jedi that has ever existed. The fact that she survived... Wow. She survived Order 66 by reflecting all of them. Yeah, but he didn't reflect bullets. He ran away and had Jaro Tapal to save his little ass the whole time. And that's coming from somebody who is deeply in love with Cal Kestis and Cameron Monaghan. Oh. I'm telling you, Ahsoka would win.
I'm not so sure.
Why? Because he has access to the dark side? Because we somehow just glazed over the fact that we're like letting a user use the dark side and just get away with it?
No, they both survived Vader. Right.
Touche.
And as far as lightsaber skills go, Cal's able to switch between multiple styles of fighting. Ahsoka is not.
Two. She has two.
Okay.
Dual bladed and single bladed.
5.
I know. I wonder though, I do wonder like what is, well, I know, I guess that technically it's all canon. Listen.
Well, then you look at the Force stuff that he can do. I'd say it's comparable.
Okay. Close, but maybe not
It's
comparable.
not as close. I don't know. I don't think it's as, you know, Ahsoka dominating. I don't think it is. I think it's very close.
Well, listeners, you're going to be looking for two new hosts. Kyle and I cannot work together due to professional differences. So I don't know, man. That is a tough one. That is a tough one.
I couldn't give him a straight answer. I had no idea.
I feel pretty confident in my answer. I'm sure that I could hold my own in an actual debate, but it's kind of a challenge for us to compare the two, partially just because they didn't really live the same. You know what I mean? Like Ahsoka's life.
He's much younger.
Yeah. Exactly. And so like he didn't get to have the development that like Ahsoka did, but also in generics, we're talking about like a smaller part of the timeline and Ahsoka's life, which is a significantly longer span of time. So I don't know. I think that one is kind of hard. If we want to talk about Fallen Order, Cal Kestis, absolutely Ahsoka.
Ahsoka wins.
Yeah. Yes. Even like who we got at the very end of Fallen Order. If we're talking about like the end of Survivor, then maybe.
Which I am.
Okay, so then maybe at that circumstance, I could say that Cal Kestis could very much hold his own against Ahsoka. But I don't know that Cal would win between the two. Ahsoka's attunement with the Force is so powerful that she literally killed more than one enemy using nothing but the Force. No lightsaber, nothing. And I don't know that I can say the same about Cal.
No, I think he's always used a saber for the most part.
Yeah. That was a really good question. I don't have any.
Yeah.
I got a big one for you. I got a great question. Boxers
you just said you
or briefs?
Yes.
Kyle actually, he doesn't wear either. Kyle rocks the mankini all the time. He whale tails.
No.
No, not accurate.
Def not.
Hey, you actually didn't you go out of town recently with Jer Bear? Was that last week? Or am I thinking of snaps from 2 weeks ago?
Maybe 2 weeks ago. We went to Idaho.
That's right. Yeah. Getting towards the end of peak season, everything just blends together. I don't really know. I don't know what time is anymore. Anyways,
stuff's about to be crazy at work, so we'll see how that all goes.
Yeah. Let's hold off on talking about that just because we don't want to get you in trouble or anything. Well, the transition occurs. Wow. So we have a few things to talk about today before Nerd Network news, which part of it will probably bleed into Nerd Network news. What were we supposed to talk about? Ahsoka, I think, is pretty much the main topic before we do Nerd Network.
Never heard of her.
Ahsoka hardly know her. So guys, we got the presumably final trailer for Ahsoka. So we have now 3 iterations of the trailer. The first 2 iterations were pretty similar. The third iteration does give us a lot more dialogue from various characters. And we start to see a little bit more about those opening scenes, which I think this most recent trailer, based on the fact that they kept pushing throughout like their use of all of it, is like the first 2 episodes are released on August 23rd. I wonder if they did it the way they do with Mando, where that trailer that we get is pretty much the content, or pretty much the only content that we're going to start off with the first 2 episodes.
That's what I was just about to ask you. Do you think it's that spans the whole season, or it's just those 2 episodes? I'm pretty sure it's just the first 2.
Span the whole. Yeah, but I think this one.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah. So expand on that. Expand on your thoughts on that.
So it's more like, I don't think they're gonna show us a whole lot.
Yeah.
So why would they? And you don't want to spoil anything.
Do you think that they'll show Thrawn within the first 2 episodes?
If he's in the trailer, I think that they might.
Yeah. Maybe just as that scene where he's walking into the ship.
Maybe just that one, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, or even it might be as sort of like a hologram sort of thing
Hmm.
for a little bit of it. But he's the main villain as far as
From what we're going to get with the
the
future. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't think you can just be like, the same thing with they did with Moff Gideon, where
Yeah.
like, oh, we're just gonna throw him in the last episode.
I wonder
Like, I
though,
don't think you can do that.
and I don't know if they're going to do it at the last, but I wonder if they are going to kind of keep him a little bit more in the shadows until deeper into the season, especially because the last episode and the last, we'll call it, scene with the Empire that we got from Mando was them just saying, Gideon being a dick and being like, "Where is he? He's not here. So why do we care?" So I kind of wonder if maybe they're going to perpetuate that a little bit more and still make him in the shadows. But I don't know. I mean, this first bit didn't really showed Ezra, just Ezra's hologram again, and
Right.
the assumption would be that once they find Thrawn, then they would be also finding Ezra. But
Mm-hmm.
let me pause. Let me look this up really quick. I don't know if they actually have this released yet. I was gonna look and see if they have a list of how many episodes each of these characters are in yet. Let me look. Ahsoka. They all just say 1 episode. No, wait, nope. Yeah, this can't be real. So far, it just looks like everyone's listed as 1 episode, other than 3 people. Ahsoka, whoever Captain Enoch is going to be. Who is Captain Enoch? Why does that name sound so familiar?
That sounds super familiar.
And then Sabine Wren.
Yeah, there's no way that that's what it actually is.
Captain Enoch. No, he's going to be a fresh character. Huh. Maybe he's the villain. Captain Enoch.
Well, Thrawn's the villain.
No, he looks good. He's been in some other stuff. Wes Chantham. Not really. He's not really been anything famous. Okay. Anyways, yeah. So they haven't really released anything on IMDb outside of Captain Enoch, whoever that's going to be, Sabine Wren, and then Ahsoka. So those are the only 3 people that we know are confirmed for the whole season. Because I think they did say it was 8 episodes, right? Am I wrong in saying that? Maybe they didn't announce.
I don't recall.
But we listen to those
I'm
guys.
guessing
Everybody else.
it's either 8 to 12.
Okay, yeah. Because all the rest of the characters are just listed as 1 episode, so I don't really know if we have a way of telling yet. But all of that being said, we didn't see him physically outside of the hologram in any of the trailers. So, especially knowing that we've got to do another movie, and as we'll talk about soon, potentially even more seasons of that show. It's just interesting how it's all going to play out, and I'm gonna blindly trust Filoni. Maybe rest in peace under Filoni's reign. I'm just gonna trust that they got it in the bag because it's gonna be a fucking amazing show.
Well, I mean, if Thrawn's in it, and they kind of let's assume they went to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he either offed Ezra or Ezra's somewhere out there. He's got to be.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I did buy the Heir to the Empire book by Timothy Zahn, and I've been reading that. I'm about halfway through it, and the kind of shocking star, or the kind of shocking character that I didn't think was. I mean, I kind of knew that he was going to be a big part of it, but post Empire collapse, uh, Luke Skywalker, kind of a badass, and it's disappointing reading the book and then seeing what they did with Luke Skywalker's character in the sequel trilogy, or whatever we call it.
Yeah.
What are we calling it? Sequel? Is it technically
Sequel trilogy.
Okay. Yeah.
Sequel trilogy. Yes.
It's disappointing. I mean, the character that Luke is at this point in the book is a badass dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's hard for me to read some of this material. It's hard for me to read some of these books, seeing Luke in that light, and then seeing how dirty they did him in the movies. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's rough. So, obviously with us getting deep fake Luke in Boba and then Mando, I guarantee, especially reading the book, I guarantee that we're going to see him in this upcoming season, or at least hopefully we're going to see him in the upcoming season. But I don't know. It's just, I'm so excited for it. I'm so excited that I even took the day off early.
Yeah, Mark Hamill's been in every single Star Wars project that exists in some capacity.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Learn something new every day, folks. You heard it here first. Well, heard it wherever you heard it first, and then you heard
it here again
from Kyle.
Yep.
That's interesting. Have you watched any of the other animated stuff yet? Have you watched like Visions or anything like that yet?
No.
Okay, well, never mind. There's a few episodes in Visions season 2, which has a very similar artistic style to what is now into the Spider-Verse, and then now also Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. There we go. So yeah, definitely go give it a look. Bad Batch. That's actually, so I started rewatching Bad Batch, and I guess I didn't pick up on the first watch of it. I didn't realize how many nods they've given to like all the other series in that show. And I know that may be like a duh, Dakota, but like, yes, Rebels did do a lot of throwbacks to Clone Wars, but Bad Batch just does it so tactfully and beautifully. And apparently there was like 3 or 4 episodes in the middle of the season that I must have just let play whenever I fell asleep, because I didn't recall. And that was kind of cool rewatching him. But, excuse me, I don't know. Kind of interesting. I just didn't really play as much attention to the Bad Batch, which has been kind of neat. Did you finished it, right? Did you finish it?
No.
You still haven't even finished season 2?
No.
Why?
I have to.
Yeah, you need to.
I don't know. I just
actually, yeah. Give me your thoughts on that, because you said that it wasn't like you liked it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I'm just maybe not attached to those characters as much.
Yeah.
Because like they're just randomly in the Clone Wars to set up their own show later down the line, and it's like, I mean, I know them, but like, I don't know. Like I care a little bit, but not. I don't know. I'll finish it eventually.
Yeah.
Like, and I've had some stuff spoiled for me and stuff like that, so maybe that's why I'm just not jumping into it.
Not as into it, yeah. I think from a lore standpoint, it's got some really good nuggets in there, and that's kind of why I've been powering through it. I don't think that it flows as well as maybe Clone Wars or Rebels, but part of it's maybe just because it was more adult themed and like made more towards adults. But we just don't have a lot of other examples of post Republic collapsed early Empire, and so it's kind of good for that material and
I
good
think the
to
concept
see
itself is
change.
interesting to
Yeah,
see what they ended up doing with the clone troopers
yeah.
after Order 66, and they basically just tossed them to the wayside.
Or in Camino's circumstance, threw them into the ocean,
Blew
kind
them
of.
up. Yep.
Yep. Um, which did you know that that was actually based off of a Vader comic? That the attack on Camino
Oh, I
actually
didn't know that.
occurred in a Vader comic. Yeah,
I didn't
kind of
know that.
interesting. And it's really cool to see David Filoni. I don't know why I keep calling him David. It's kind of cool seeing Dave Filoni pull like material out of his hat. It's kind of cool seeing them like pull material that we thought was like Legends. Where is it? Not going to break up. There we go. Legends material. So I wonder what they're going to do with Ahsoka. I wonder what they're going to bring us.
They
But
can do whatever they want.
and we're still going to love it, and we're going to talk
Yep.
about it. But yeah, I decided to take off early that day, so I don't know what it would look like on Disney Plus, but listeners and Kyle and everybody else that maybe wants to join us, kind of considering doing a watching party of the show.
Sure.
I don't know how that works with Disney,
That would
but
be 26th. Is that when it comes out?
23rd, right? Am I wrong? Is it 26th?
I think you're wrong.
I think I've said the 23rd the whole time. Um, sorry, my boss just texted me.
You're off work. Don't respond.
All right, well, we're doing a huge lab move for a doctor who's moving all of their research equipment from New York to Cornell. So, who's texting me about those details? Fuck. Sorry. Anyways, whatever the day is, I'll correct myself. I'll edit myself out so I don't look like an idiot. But yeah, guys, we're gonna do. I think I'm just gonna say it. Yeah, we'll do a watching party. We'll do it
Sure.
via Disney Plus. I think that they have that watch viewing party thing. And if not, then maybe I can figure out a way to stream it to like Discord or something. Um, but yeah, I think that'd be fun. What else in Ahsoka? Before we move on to the other details in
You brought
Nerd
up
Network news.
an interesting point that I didn't even think about with
Mm-hmm.
Luke, because we know Hayden's going to be in it
Yeah,
as Anakin, probably as Vader, and obviously like a Force ghost, maybe like a Vision capacity.
yeah,
What if Hayden's Force ghost interacts with Ahsoka and Luke? Like that would be
yeah.
just an incredible, incredible moment.
I think you're right. I think I think based on I don't know, it's a hunch feeling based on the dialogue that we've gotten out of Hayden. I feel like he's not going to be showing back up as a villain. I think you're right. I think he's going to be a Force ghost. Um, and
I
I
think he
would
could be both.
you do
Mm-hmm.
because I wonder.
Maybe like she's having a nightmare or something, and it switches from
Hmm,
Anakin to Vader or something like that.
we really didn't ever get to flesh out her, you know, regrets. We didn't really get to flesh out any of that in
Mm-hmm.
Rebels. I mean, they kind of did in that like last,
A little bit,
yeah.
a
I mean, in that
little.
like once he rescues her, they kind of did whenever they were
Uh-huh.
talking, like in that paracausal
Whatever it
between
was, yeah,
realms. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I just, I mean, it's so developmental and it's so important to like why she walked away from the order and why she, even though is a Jedi, isn't a Jedi. So I feel like they would be doing all of us a disservice if they didn't dive into that a little bit. Especially knowing Thrawn, I know that he would probably use her like insecurities against her. So I'd venture to say that he uses that. So I don't know. I hope that he comes
I
back
know
as like a
they've
good ghost.
in the trailers they've shown like a lot of kind of like action scenes and stuff,
Yeah.
but I think Ahsoka has to also be like an emotionally driven
Yes.
story. It has to be. With what the trauma she's gone through and what she's lived through, it has to be.
And we know that the reason why she's so anti-Tron, the reason why the reason why we know she's so anti-Thrawn
Well, I don't like
is
Tron
because
either.
I know, fuck. um, because it was revealed to her, and obviously she's one of the only people that's privy to this information that he is the heir to the Empire. So I know that that's her driving force behind finding Thrawn and trying to get rid of him. But I mean, she's got a lot of fucking emotional baggage. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they have to dive into that. The fact that they were diving into that with Andor, I mean, they even did it with Obi-Wan. And I feel like this is just the perfect time for them to come up with the show, though. And I get that, like, the show was written, shot, probably produced before, like, a lot of the most recent content we've gotten. But, I mean, we're just at a perfect, like, point for Star Wars content where we're getting amazing story-driven content, arguably better aged content, meaning that it's more focused towards adults and children instead of just children.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like they're going to be bringing those same adult themes that they had in Obi-Wan and Andor and Mando and Boba. I think they're going to be bringing all of that into Ahsoka, and hopefully a more better packaged way. But I don't know. I feel like when we talk in the next 20 days or something, we're just going to be, God, how are we going to do episodes? We're going to have so much to talk about. Like every week, we're going to have to spend like 30 minutes talking about Ahsoka. I love this. I love it.
Gonna have to put a lot of spoiler warnings for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. But what else? What's some of the other stuff that you've seen come up with Ahsoka recently? We'll talk about we'll talk about a little bit more maybe in their network news.
Other than, I think we talked about it before, but other than that Inquisitor
Yeah.
being like named and it's not Sam Witwer in the cast,
I forgot that he was
not
named.
Yeah. So not Starkiller,
Yeah.
like some people were hoping, but I think we all kind of figured it wouldn't be because I don't know. I
What
think
was his
like
name? What was it?
Marok or
Marok.
Merrick,
Yeah, that's right.
but even Starkiller's actual name is Galen Merrick, so it's close. But I would prefer if they did do that route, it'd be Sam Witwer that plays that character.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
because I
don't know.
think this most recent trailer is the first time that we actually saw like that the Inquisitor was the one like leading the droids that we saw in that very first trailer, that teaser.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
Which is
can't tell what planet they're on. Seems like a
it's
ship
still
breaking planet.
odd because there shouldn't be any Inquisitors at all
Yeah.
at this point in the timeline. Like they should be all wiped out. So it's very confusing as to how this character is even around.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll explain it because why would Dave Filoni have any loose ends that he wasn't going to wrap up?
Yeah.
But it's very odd to see an Inquisitor.
I do think that that's going to happen in the very first episode, and I would venture to say that that's going to be one of the first scenes that we get. I really do think that temple scene is the very first scene that we're going to get. So I wonder if that's how, through potentially killing that Inquisitor, I wonder if that's how then we find out about the Grey Jedi.
No such thing.
Okay. Calm down. I don't know. It's just really good. Also, listeners, I'm sorry. You're probably going to be picking up the cicadas in the background, and I don't know what I can do about that.
Picking up what?
Cicadas. I don't know how to describe this. They're bugs.
Okay.
It sounds like like outdoor noise, like crickets and stuff.
Okay. I don't hear anything.
Maybe they don't. Are cicadas a thing up there? Maybe they're not.
I've never heard of cicada before.
I can hear it playing back through my mic, through like the monitor, and it's starting to get pretty loud. So I don't know how to edit that out. Anybody that's listening, if you're a good audio editor, please hit me up. I really need help. Oh, okay. Uh, do you feel like this is a good time for us to transition into Nerd Network news?
Let's do the news.
Okay. You know who's not going to forget to actually put the video and sound into it this week? It's going to be this guy because,
Well, we'll see because you said that
yeah,
last time.
I said that last week and then look what happened.
Dude, I like
Seriously,
skipped
I
like
need
through the
editing
whole
help.
episode. I was waiting for it, and I was like, I don't think this motherfucker put it in.
Accurate. Absolutely accurate. That was, it was a long episode. I don't know
It
why I
was.
forgot in the middle of
It
editing.
was. And there like I listened to it. There wasn't anywhere where we broke to where like
No.
this is where it starts now. We just went
Yep.
right in.
Yep.
So
That's my bad. I'll get it in this week though, maybe if I remember. Uh, yeah. On that note, before we do dive into their network news, that was me being serious. I'll dive it all in. I am personally struggling with editing our podcast in a efficient and proper manner. So for any listeners, if you can offer your help, we can't pay you because we don't have money for that. But we'll you know what? We'll give you a shout out. You'll get your own specific shout out every episode if you want to help me edit the podcast because I'm struggling and I don't fully know what I'm doing, and it would just be helpful for somebody who has better expertise behind it, that when we run into an issue, they can help me kind of figure that issue out, because the alternative is cutting that content out, and I don't feel like that's a viable option for anybody. So before we dive into Nerd Network news, if you would like to, and if you have the ability to help here and there, it's not a full-time thing, it's not a requirement, but if you could please do me a favor and shoot us an email at trustinthepod@gmail.com, that would be greatly appreciated, so that way I can connect with you and potentially get some help on editing. That being said,
this is a breaking nerd news bulletin. Give a big hello there to your hosts and nerds of all trades, Dak and Kyle.
do you have anything this week, or is it my 19 articles that I didn't send you until I talked to you about it when we started recording?
I really don't have anything other than we both hit on the Baldur's Gate thing.
Yes, you're going to be talking about that.
So
I don't know shit
other
about that
than
game.
that, I don't really have a whole lot, honestly. I think it's
Okay.
mostly just the stuff I we talked about a little bit before we started.
Yeah. Uh, so as a typical bad friend and typical bad co-host, I did not send Kyle any of these articles beforehand like I normally do.
No.
I I was literally, you want to know what I was doing? I was eating a corn dog because that's what I ate for dinner. I was eating a corn dog
Ah,
on a couch reading these articles, and then like, oh, hey, I record soon. We should probably do this. So, my apologies. Um
it
that
is what it is.
being said. Okay, starting off. So, let's start off with some Star Wars news, shall we? So first
I'll
off,
allow it.
I want to give a super big shout out to Star Wars. Let me restart that. Let me give a huge shout out to Star Wars News Net, SWNNN. That's where I get a lot of my Star Wars news when it comes to new stuff, when it comes to existing stuff, when it comes to throwbacks. They're ran by an amazing team worldwide of people who are very passionate about Star Wars, just as Kyle and I are. And so definitely go give them a follow for anything Star Wars related. Definitely go check out their website. Very amazing group of guys. That being said, weekly, they do a weekly roundup of Star Wars news. So I am going to use their weekly roundup as a basis for us to talk about this. So I will show the video a little bit, like a blurb of the video, and I will also link it down in the description below. Please give them the shout out that they deserve, and please go follow them. That being said, here are our four topics for this week's Star Wars news. First off, Lando. Kyle, I know
Yes, sir.
yes, you looked into this a little bit more
I did.
before I did. So let me hand this off to you. go ahead and tell our listeners about
Yeah,
the upcoming Lando series and who's doing it.
Donald Glover, who played Lando in the Solo, a Star Wars story,
Also
prequel
known
sort of thing.
as Childish Gambino. Childish
Yes.
Gambino. There
Well,
we go.
who
Formerly.
knows? Who knows if they're the same guy?
Formerly known
It
as.
could be anybody.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, Childish Gambino, who works with Ludwig Göransson. He and his brother, who worked together on the show ATL, are getting together to make a Lando Calrissian Star Wars show on Disney Plus, which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
Because, like, obviously, it's another show that's within that, main timeline sort of thing that we've been through over and over again. But Lando can go anywhere at any time and do anything.
Yep.
And he's cool as hell.
I mean, literally the coolest Star Wars character.
The coolest dude. And if it's, I don't know, I think they're probably, I'm assuming it's not just going to be purely comedic.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to hit on some dramatic stuff based on, I don't know if you've watched ATL.
Yes. Atlanta is probably one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. But if it's anything similar to that, but in space, it's going to be amazing. Going to be good.
It's going to be so good.
Real good. Especially if they can get Ludwig to compose on it.
Yes. Which they will, because they're personal friends.
They're friends. Like, it's got to,
well,
it just makes sense.
As somebody who has watched a lot of Atlanta, so Hiro Murai, am I saying his last name correct? Do you know who I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
He's actually the director.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so he's Donald's personal, very close friend, who is the director of, I would say, like 90% of his projects. He was the director of This Is America. He was the person that directed that musical. Yeah. So I would venture to say that they're probably going to bring him on to the project in some capacity. And the combination between Donald Glover, his brother Steven, and then Hiro creates, in my opinion, that's what pretty much gave us Atlanta. But the fact that they do so blissfully and so beautifully execute the combination of comedy, drama, and real life situations and packaging it in a very palatable way makes me 100% know that Lando is going to be stellar.
Now that we brought that up, I just had a thought. Do they bring Han Solo onto the show? Same actor. Do you think they do it?
Probably, yeah. There's no reason why we got Solo as a movie, the dog shit movie that it ended up being.
Whoa!
Don't you whoa me. That movie was rewritten like 9 times.
It was a space western. It did what it was supposed to do.
Yes. And that actor, I forget his name right now, is amazing. I don't think that they would have introduced us all those characters, even if the movie was a flop. I don't think they would have introduced us to all those characters and just left it. So I definitely do think that we're going to be getting him back. I think for them to do it right, they would have to go into like the history of Lando. So I don't know. It makes me question. I do wonder if they're going to do it in a Andor style, or if we're going to do it more of like an Obi-Wan style, where we get to see a lot of characters that we already knew.
All right. Give me a few seconds.
Okay.
I'll be right back. Okay.
My boss is such an idiot.
Oh, yeah, same.
Well, I say my thing jokingly. You mean it. Okay.
I don't even have a boss after tomorrow, so.
Thank God. Okay, so we covered Lando.
We did.
All right. Next up, Kyle. Anakin is to appear in the Ahsoka series. Now, we kind of already knew that.
We knew that, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean, we did, we didn't. We knew that Anakin was going to be in there, but we didn't know that Hayden was going to be playing such a major role. But again, if you're listening to this, please go watch the video. But in the video, they actually go a little bit more into depth with it and say, based on the documents that we saw for the reveal, the number of episodes, all that stuff, that and plus leaks, that they believe that he's actually going to play a much more major role in Ahsoka than previous thought,
Really?
which we kind of discussed. I would personally think that it's going to kind of go the route that you had mentioned. It's going to be very flashback heavy and potentially with a Force Ghost, which would be kind of cool.
Well, I mean, what else can you do? He's dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not like Obi-Wan where Vader's alive at that point. And
Yeah.
you can obviously they did flashbacks in that,
Yeah.
but
Very beautiful
yeah, I
flashbacks.
mean he's a dead character. There's not a
Yes.
whole lot you can really touch on.
Yeah.
So
What would have been awesome to see a live
I didn't
action
know he
version.
was in a. I
Which
didn't know he was in a large role. I thought it would just be like he's here in this episode for 2 minutes.
I
That's
think
kind
the
of
way
what I
that the
thought it was going to be.
video worded it is that he was playing a major role in the upcoming season.
Good.
Yeah. I mean,
More
yeah,
Hayden Christensen
he
is
deserved it.
wonderful. Absolutely.
You know what would have been really
Absolutely.
fucking cool is to see that final scene where they battle it out on Lothar. It would have been cool to see,
Well, what if they do it a live action flashback of it?
and that's what I would want. A live action
That would
version.
be awesome.
I would bawl my brains out. I would sit there and just be bowling.
Especially like that scene. I think it kind of is very similar to the Obi-Wan one,
Yes.
where he gets his face cut, but then the eye changes and
Yep.
the voice changes, and that's my favorite scene in Rebels, honestly.
Oh, I would agree. Well, no, that's very close. Number 2 for me. Number 1 for me is definitely the Kanan Jar scene. Yeah, it's interesting the two different narratives that they pushed behind that scene, right? Because when I very first saw that occur in Obi-Wan, I was like, oh god, here we go. Exactly the same thing as Ahsoka. Exactly the same thing out of Rebels. But they pushed two different narratives behind it too, which was gorgeous. For Ahsoka, it was her regrets of leaving. For Obi-Wan, it was that he felt like he failed Anakin and that he failed himself. So, but of the two, mainly because of the lighting, the music, and the cinematography, Obi-Wan did it a little bit better.
Yeah, there was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Well, just them switching the lightsaber glow from red to blue, depending on what the voice was doing at that particular point in time. Genius.
Absolutely genius. And to me, honestly, that was the redeeming end to the show. That was what made me overlook a lot of the badness that everyone can comment and rightfully say about the show. I overlooked all of that.
There was a lot of weird stuff. Yeah. I remember I watched one of the fan-made movie edits of it, and like they cut out a lot of like what's her face, the antagonist, like her jumping through that planet doing flips and shit that didn't really matter. They cut like all that out, and I was like, good. Yeah. Like she's not badass, not a badass character.
I don't know if they've still released that official movie cut, like the official like where they redid the graphics. I don't know if they've released that just yet, but stay tuned.
I watched one of them, and they cut out a lot of stuff that I was just like, good.
Yeah, the one that you sent me was pretty good. The one that I'm talking about, though, they like redid several of the graphics. Like the guy that's doing it is like literally one of the visual artists from Andor, and specifically the scene that he worked on was the Aldani. There we go, Aldani scene. But yeah, so Anakin's taking a more real role. What else do we have? Oh, a new book, a new collection of short stories from a certain point of view.
You told me a little bit about this.
Yes. So it's going to be a collection of a lot of different short stories, existing short stories, new short stories, characters that we've seen, new characters that we didn't know a whole lot about. But they're going to conglomerate all of this into a book called From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi Stories.
Did they say who the characters were that were touched on?
Everything from like Boba Fett to a character that is escaping my name right now. I mean, it's all the way up and down the ladder. They're going to do Imperial characters. They're going to do Rebel characters. It's just wide spectrum. Short stories about those
Okay.
characters, short stories from that character's point of view. It's supposed to be pretty cool. So I'm a big nerd. I love reading. I love reading Star Wars books. I'm excited to shit, especially since it's going to be short stories, because I have a really bad problem about starting a book and then giving up halfway through. So palatable. What else? Oh, Star Wars Jedi. It's, I guess, coming to PlayStation 4 and Xbox One because
Reasons.
reasons. I thought that they previously said that they weren't going to, didn't they? I thought that was a thing. Am I wrong?
I don't honestly. I don't recall, but I also wasn't looking for them to announce it because I don't have. I mean, I have a last gen console, but I don't play on it.
It's not what you use every day.
Yeah. So I wasn't really paying attention.
I thought that they said that they were only going to release it on new gen, but maybe they went back and. I mean, I don't know. It'd be interesting.
I don't think they should until they fix the PC port. Honestly,
They
and they haven't. There's been one update.
Yeah.
Week 1, and it didn't fix it.
Got rid of the frame rate issues. I think that was it, right?
I don't even think it fixed that.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's weird that they're wanting to put those assets there because then they have to leave those servers open specifically for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, and that just seems like a waste of space and a waste of resources. But maybe it's something that they're already doing, and maybe it takes a really small port team. Maybe it just takes a really small team to port it out to those older graphics. I don't know.
But I don't know. Did they say when it was coming out? Because it's been quite a while since it came out initially.
They did in the video. I'll insert it here because I already forgot. But yeah, so they're going to bring Survivor to old gen consoles. Maybe it's more for like a worldwide thing, because actually consoles, the next gen consoles have not done as well worldwide as they have in the United States and Japan, obviously. So maybe they're doing it more for those other nations. I don't know. That was it for the Star Wars roundup, though. What else do we have?
Very cool stuff. Other than PS4, I don't. Okay.
Yeah. Ahsoka, season 2 potentials. Mama Rosario said that she's got her ice packs ready to go for season 2. So obviously, since we know we have to get a movie.
What?
Oh, well, meaning like she's ready to like get injured and all that jazz.
Well, I understood that. I was just like, we don't even know what's going on in season 1. You want to talk about season 2 already? Okay.
It kind of makes sense because we got to get to a point where we get a movie, right?
We do. There has to be a movie. Yep.
It kind of makes sense. Kinda.
Well, I mean, a lot of the shows, they don't even comment on if there's going to be a season 2. You know.
Correct.
Like,
yes.
Boba Fett. Is there going to be a season 2? We don't fucking know. Obi-Wan. Is there going to be season 2? We don't know.
Did they say season 1, season 2 on all of those, or did they just say series? Because that's where part of what this direct article says is that they made it a very specific possibility because they indicated it by saying 2023's series is season 1. Something that they did not do with, as this article points out, something they did not do with Marvel Studios' Secret Invasion or the upcoming series for Star Wars Skeleton Crew. All they denoted it as is a series, not season.
What did they do with Andor?
I think just series. I don't know if they said season 1 or anything like that.
I have no idea.
It's hard to use that, though, because like season is synonymous with series. Everywhere else in the world, they don't call it seasons. They call it series. We're the only weird ones that call it season. So it's kind of hard to do that. What she did say, though, is that it's going to be 100% fan-forced and fan-driven. Obviously, us knowing how fuckbag Iger's views on Disney and views on the content, knowing his completely wrong ideas on all that, I think that maybe that's more of what she's saying. Especially, again, I'll link the article down below. I'll show an actual screenshot of it and a link to it. But the article was kind of pushing the narrative a little bit more that, like, the fans, if a fans show out in droves, and if we talk about how great Ahsoka is after it comes out, if it meets good fanfare, then they're going to renew it and then they're going to continue. I don't know why they would do that, given the fact that this Mando season 3 was the most successful season of Mando, given the fact that Andor was the most successful any Star Wars content that they've done so far. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's kind of weird that they'd be doing that, but Bob Iger is a fuckbag and they got rid of Kathleen Kennedy, right? So
who knows? Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't.
I know. I thought it was like confirmed and the bitch is still there. Disney, get your shit together.
No idea. No idea.
The two people who have a very small podcast who do not have their lives together have a very strong opinion about what Disney should and should not be doing. Oh, the irony. What else do we got? Oh, Barbie.
Barbenheimer.
$1 billion. $1 billion is what it's done in the box office so far. That's insane, dude. 1 billion.
That's nuts.
Think about that. Think about how many people have to go fucking buy a ticket. And tickets are not cheap. But, you know, movies only get like a pennies on the dollar fraction of any movie ticket that we buy. That's just insane. Comparatively, Oppenheimer has done just a little over half a billion. And Oppenheimer is officially the highest grossing, or box office grossing, the highest box office grossing, that was a weird way of saying that, World War II set film. Which is, I feel like each time they're trying to like do these records, they're like, I don't know, for you it'd be like, most successful, Star Wars focused, nerd based podcast led by a guy.
Released on a Friday,
named by a guy, Kyle, who has kids, specifically multiple, and is married and just turned 30. Boop. You win that award.
Yeah,
you're
I
the
get
most
that.
Successful. Well, Kyle's that do all that.
Dude, so like, I know you don't follow sports or anything, but they do that a lot with like random stats on their posts, like their Facebook or Instagram. It's like, this quarterback is the first to do this on this day and this year. And it's like, shut up. Like, it's very like specific, and it's like, why?
I'm gonna say shut up because I don't like sports outside of like soccer. Is F1 a sport? Do we consider F1? Do we consider racing a sport?
Yeah, NASCAR's a sport.
I consider racing a sport, and I watch F1 a lot, and I watch G1 sports a lot.
I'm sure everyone thinks it's easy until you get into a car that's going 200 miles an hour.
Dude, think about seriously, think about like what your body has to be able to withstand when you're turning corners like that and everything. Anyways, that's a digression. So Barbie's pretty successful. You haven't seen it yet. I have.
No, I don't think I want to see it.
It's good. I'm split with it. It's very satirical. It's very a mock of its own self. I don't know. It was a good movie. I just don't know. I don't know if it would be worth it for somebody like you to go watch it. And I don't say that in a derogatory sense.
I do it as like, maybe when it comes out on like streaming platforms, I'll check it out. But in theaters, I obviously like, I didn't grow up playing with Barbies. Like, I don't give a shit. Yeah. I think Margot Robbie's cool because she's Harley Quinn and stuff, but it doesn't pique my interest. Like,
it's very social. It's very social. It's hard to describe. It's really hard to describe. I just don't know. I mean, it's very successful though. A lot of people have watched it, whether because of the hype or because they actually wanted to go see it. I think a lot of what is preventing people maybe from going to see Oppenheimer is its long runtime. because everyone knows that
Isn't
it's
it
3
3
hours.
hours?
Yeah, it's every bit of that 3 hours too.
I
But
mean, Endgame was 3 hours, but that was also set up over a decade.
yeah,
So
and to be honest with you, though, I don't know how they could have cut any more content out of Oppenheimer. They already had to have cut it. I mean, I think Christopher Nolan's already said that they cut a substantial amount of content out of the movie before we got it. It was a lot like, to me, it was a lot like the Snyder Cut, where yes, it was a marathon of a movie, but once you got to the end, based on the story that you got to see from start to finish, it made sense as to why it was so long, and it almost, in and of itself, justified itself being so long. If that makes sense, because the Snyder Cut was what, like 4 hours or something. Snyder Cut was fucking long.
something around there. Yeah, I didn't end up watching it, but I
remember
heard it was
starting
good.
it when it was light outside and finishing it whenever it was dark outside. But yeah, Baldur's Gate. Let's move to some gaming news. So we'll talk
Let's
about
do that.
a few different games. Let's start with Baldur's
Yeah.
Gate.
So I'm still mad
tell us
that I
about
can't
that.
play it.
Yes.
So yeah, Baldur's Gate had its PC release on the 3rd.
Yes.
At this point, it has, as of today, 800,000 concurrent players, which is absolutely insane, especially since it's not on a console yet.
Yeah.
It's
Keep talking. Let's look at the
blowing RPGs out of the water. We know that a lot of developers were basically saying this is unrealistic for an RPG. You know, this shouldn't be, where the bar is set because it's so big. It puts the role playing aspect back into RPG.
Yeah.
There's really not anything you can't do. And it's Dungeons and Dragons, so you don't have to play, a human if you don't want to.
Yeah.
There's multiple of everything. I've seen bits and pieces here because I don't want to spoil the story for myself because I'm on PlayStation. I have to wait a month. I'm not trying to ruin anything, but I've seen things where like you just walk in on fucking orcs doing each other just randomly or whatever, or like I think I saw a clip of you can attack a squirrel and someone attacked a squirrel and rolled a natural 20 on their dice to attack, and like the squirrel just ended up being blood and guts off of a kick.
Yeah.
It's like just little things. Like it seems like you can pretty much do anything you want at
That's
any
really
given
cool.
point in time. And
So
I know
it's
like
more-
maybe a lot of people won't play it because it's turn-based
Mm.
and like it's an overhead camera. I hate turn-based. I hate overhead camera. I'm gonna get the game because
Yeah.
it looks incredible.
It does look pretty good. You know, I commented to you before we started recording. It is out on MacBook and Mac devices, which
Yeah, my
No
MacBook
games.
can't run
yeah, no, yours
anything.
cannot. Like no games ever get ported for Mac, which makes sense. Why would you dedicate the resources to that when it's not a super big player base? But given some Nerd Network news that we're going to talk on a little bit, I do think
I think you're about to see a whole lot.
yes. I think that Apple is going to, especially with their ARM-based series of chips, I think that they're going to really enter the gaming space pretty seriously here soon. Especially because my tiny little MacBook can actually... I played the most recent Resident Evil game. Not on the highest settings, but on pretty decent settings for 1080p, and it held its own.
Okay.
I did some stuff to circumvent the thermo throttling and all that shit, but I don't know. I'll probably buy Baldur's Gate on it, to be honest with you. I'll probably buy it here in about a few weeks or so. Like you, I'm not a big turn-by-turn kind of game guy. No. I'm not a super big overhead, but
that is how, and if you're playing an actual Dungeons and Dragons game, it's turn-based. It's turn-based combat.
Yep.
So it kind of makes sense that they would do it that way. But if you've played the game, don't fucking spoil it for me.
I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Say nothing.
I'm not going to say anything.
Because I'm going to get it, and I'm going to love it.
I'll wait to get it until after you get it. Come on. I'm not going to be that guy.
No, just anyone who's listening, if you know anything about the game that I don't, don't fucking talk to me about it. I'm serious. Like, you can tell me it's good. You can tell me you're having fun. Tell me nothing that happens.
But
Maybe
don't talk
send me
about
your
anything.
character. That's
Yeah.
all I want to know. Don't fucking ruin anything. But I guess I've heard the game has over 200, or no, sorry, 2,000 different endings.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Which, what more could you want from a role playing game?
Yeah.
That's incredible. And
What
I
else?
think
What other games?
Um, Starfield? No,
Starfield's coming
Starfield's
out
not
soon.
out for
Yeah.
another. It's another month from now. I
Yeah,
looked it up,
that's soonish.
but I feel we kind of
So,
talked about it a little bit. I think
yeah.
Baldur's Gate is kind of overshadowing Starfield at this point.
I think that's very intentional. Because, yeah, I think that they're putting all their chips in that bag.
So I think I mean Starfield's going to be big too,
Yes.
but
However,
Baldur's Gate is kind of taking over the media at this point.
Yes.
It wasn't supposed to be this good, and it is.
I think it's going to be very similar to kind of what we got with like those 3 consecutive big title game releases, kind of like what we got with Hogwarts Legacy, which very quickly got overshadowed by Destiny 2, which very quickly got overshadowed by Survivor. So
Yep.
I would venture to say
All
it's going to
within
be a
the
very
span
similar
of
thing.
like a month or two. Yeah.
But looking at the stats, especially since these stats, I just looked them up while we were talking. The stats that we're seeing out of Baldur's Gate right out of the gate is even surpassing games that have been on Steam for 5+ years and are played pretty frequently. Like the day one launch or the day one people that have played that game at numerous hours even surpassed their most popular game, which is CSGO. So very impressive. I also think what's going to help the
Crazy to
game
me.
is you've got 2 different realms of people. You've got people who would never touch a sci-fi game. They're going to dive all into Baldur's Gate, leaving things like Elden Ring, leaving things like Elder Scrolls Online. I think you've got such a large group of people who have not had any new games recently. I think those are the people that are going to dive into Baldur's Gate pretty heavily.
Yeah. What's insane to me is like it's a Dungeons and Dragons game. If this game came out like 6 years ago, only people that played
Play
that would
Dungeons
be
and
into
Dragons
it.
game. Yeah.
Just the popularity within the last half a decade of that brand is through the damn roof. It's insane how popular Dungeons and Dragons is right now.
You know what?
You had the movie, and then you have this giant game. Like
Yep.
within the span of less than a year.
Let's sidebar
huge.
that really quick. Nerd culture in general has become mainstream culture.
It's popular now. Yeah.
I mean, I think if you and I would have talked whenever we very first met, I don't think that we would have been able to convince ourselves that it would have been worth it to have a podcast that focuses so heavily on Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like,
even when we first met, how many Star Wars shows were even out on Disney Plus? How many movies
Exactly.
were out?
yeah.
Like it's completely different.
I think I think that COVID did that for us. I think that COVID, because it did make everyone be indoors and because it did make everyone turn to things like video games, turn everything's, games like that. Well, video games, realistically, between, doing Dungeons and Dragons virtually, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
I think that because that came such a social point for so many young adults, I think people realized like, hey, this isn't something that's just taboo. This isn't something that I have to like hide. Like for me, especially, COVID made me a unapologetic Star Wars nerd. When beforehand, I would never have talked to like other than people that I knew were big Star Wars fans. I would never talk to them about Star Wars content. I would never reveal that I was like a super big Star Wars nerd. So it's interesting, and I think that that's why it's good that we're getting the content we're getting amongst everything between the Dungeons and Dragons movie, the reboot of like things like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and stuff. So I don't know.
Well, then you even look at all the Marvel stuff. Endgame's probably one of the biggest movies that's ever come out,
Yeah.
and it's a comic-based movie.
Yeah.
Like, put that out. Before obviously it wouldn't have made sense to put it out before Iron Man came out a decade ago.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like all that build up, and that all those movies did fairly well. Like nerd
And we didn't
culture is
even.
absolutely at the forefront
Oh,
at this
absolutely.
point.
You know, speaking of even that, did we even know? Did they even like lay out a game plan for like Iron Man? Like, did they say that they were going to do this whole expanded universe, or was it
Nope.
just something that just kind of
Nope.
happened?
The
Because
plan. So they definitely did a post credit scene to kind
yeah,
of set up other movies. But if Iron Man 1 doesn't do well, none of that happens.
because they didn't purchase Disney didn't purchase Marvel until what, Iron Man 2 or
Oh,
3, after 2.
I don't even know. It was a while after they
Yeah,
had gone fully in on movies.
yeah. I mean, that in and itself. I mean, even when we were kids. I mean, we're not that old, but think about when we were kids and how like comic book culture and like
Mhm.
superhero culture was like either something you were into when you were a little kid or
Mhm.
something you were into if you're just some nerd.
Oh, it's like, oh yeah, you'll grow out of Pokemon, you'll grow out
Yeah,
of the Spider-Man and all that stuff, and it's like it's
I
still
haven't.
it's more popular now than it
Yeah,
ever has been.
yeah. Like Pokemon,
And
you're now making me think about how I need to download an emulator and play Emerald on my laptop.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, uh, we got some other game releases. So Starfield obviously coming up. As Kyle
September
said.
2nd. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, we got that. September 2nd, you said?
It's either the second or third. Yeah.
Okay. So Starfield is going to be 125 gigabytes for Xbox and PC, which is pretty similar to what we got out of
Better, yeah.
Survivor.
Definitely clear some space if you don't have it.
Yeah, definitely. What else? Modern Warfare 3 officially announced. Launches this September. And this is new news as of today. It's not going to be new news as the time you listen to this. But definitely go check out that trailer. You know, it actually does look pretty sick. I will not be buying it after feeling like I wasted my money pre-ordering Modern Warfare 2. I will not be buying it. And I know you won't because you just don't like those games.
No. The only like Call of Duty thing I've really gotten into was zombies.
Yeah.
Just because there was like a lot of little Easter eggs and lore in there, and then
Yeah.
the music was really cool. But
Yeah.
I've never played a story mode. I don't play online.
Yeah.
Eh, maybe that puts me in the majority, but like I suck at shooting games. I suck ass at shooting games. I don't have fun playing it. I would break a million fucking controllers if I did. Like, and that's just not worth it to me.
I think that that's why you would like Destiny, though, because it has a combination of shooting plus using abilities, badass
Okay.
abilities. So, but yeah,
Well, I was told not to play it, so
correct. Listeners, neither Kyle and I will probably be buying that game. But I know some of you out there
no.
do like shooter games, so that's pretty exciting that we're getting another iteration of the Call of Duty franchise. Even though the Call of Duty franchise is probably the most hot topic with the FTC's allegations against Microsoft. But, you know, we've already talked about that. Diablo 4. Some damn players are getting banned for transferring characters between the realms. A mechanic that does exist in the game is being exploited by people who are, shall we say, using creative use of the game mechanics. I don't really know. It's something that's in the game. It's a glitch. So should you be banning people because they're exploiting a glitch in the game? What do you think? I mean, this is a much headier topic than what we can cover in this podcast. I know this is a much deeper podcast where people have a lot stronger emotions behind it. But, I mean, and it's an exploit, so I can see why it's a bad deal, but it's also in the game, so, like, maybe just fix your glitch.
So is it not just a mod, or
It was something about transferring characters, and if you momentarily cut your internet connection, it would give you favorable results instead of like leaving it
okay?
as like generic RPG. It would give
Okay.
you it would like reset your RPG rate to where you would get like guaranteed I don't know, man. It's
I mean, there's
complicated.
a lot of this in like NBA 2K
Yes.
where like you can glitch the shit out of it. They don't really ban players too often. They just put out patches and it fixes it.
Yes.
I
Same thing with
just
Destiny. They don't
put
they
out a
don't ban
patch. Don't
people.
fucking ban people from a game
Exactly.
they played for.
Exactly. So it's hard though, man, because you still have to do like a physical act that makes you acknowledge that you're doing something you shouldn't. Because you're still cutting your internet connection. I don't know. It's an issue in Destiny though too. There used
The
to be a
game allows you
thing.
to do it. Patch it. That's all
Exactly.
you would need to do.
No, but that's
That's all you
honestly
would
though.
need to do.
There was a thing back when Destiny 1 came out, once the Crotas and not strike. I almost said strike because it's not a raid. It pretty much just feels like a strike. Um, but if you pulled your internet connection, if you yanked the cable out of your uh, console and then replugged it in, whoever the host was for the battle, it would register that you've picked back up your internet connection, but it would glitch Crota to where he would say stationary and you consistently keep doing damage. Bungie didn't ban anybody for doing it. Bungie didn't ban people for doing it and even streaming it on Twitch. Bungie didn't ban people for creating YouTube videos about it. They just patched it and said,
Yeah.
don't do this. And there was some murmurs. There was some talk. Ugh. I need to bleep that out because it sounds like I said cock talk. There was. Wow, that threw me off.
That's a new segment.
Yeah,
Cat.
cock talk. Um, oh boy, what were we talking about? Oh, Bungie.
Yep.
Bungie did not ban people. They just came out and said, "Listen, we understand it's in the game. We understand it's an exploit. We don't agree with it. We prefer you guys not to do this. Please just stop." But they didn't ban people over it. The difference between Bungie and Blizzard, as we're finding out, is that Blizzard's a little bit more self-serving. So, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I am not. Are you into the Diablo series? I haven't really. I don't think
I've never played it.
Yeah, neither do I.
I know a lot of people who are into it, but I have no idea what it's about. I've never played it, and it's gonna stay that way.
So, listeners, or if any of our previous guests, well, actually, just listeners. Yeah, if you have some strong opinions about it, or if you have some opinions in general, shoot us an email or message Kyle and I.
I know.
We would love
Cole's already
to-
beat the game, I guess.
Oh, he has? Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be kind of interesting. Yeah. If you got some thoughts, drop us your thoughts. Shoot a message over to Kyle and I or something. We'd love to even get you guys
Yeah.
recorded and just talk about it. We can insert little segments in. So,
Yeah.
know,
Berate
we
me
love
over
that.
the internet. Do it,
oh my
coward.
God. Pussy. Bet you won't.
No
Moving right along. Because we're trying to keep it under 2 hours this time. LOL. D&D. So, we're going to kind of talk about this in two facets. One, I'm going to let Kyle start off by talking about some of the backstory of this new D&D publisher or the person that bought the rights to D&D. And then once we kind of discuss that, then we're going to move into the news article that did come out yesterday, or actually today, this morning, about what this publisher is deciding to do with certain content. So Kyle, go ahead and tell us about who they are
Yeah.
and some of the shit that they've done.
The Wizards of the Coast is the publisher for Dungeons and Dragons. They make all the books and all the settings and basically all that. They run dndbeyond.com. And they were bought out by Hasbro within the last year or two. And it really didn't go over well because they wanted to change the open gaming license to where they would basically, if anyone came up with any sort of content that was D&D related, whether it's homebrew or not, or say we put up this podcast on YouTube, right? It has anything D&D related into it, like this right now, this segment right now. They can claim copyright on that, which is basically what they wanted to do. A lot of obviously the D&D community fought back against that and ended up not happening.
Rightfully so.
But within the span of 3 or 4 months, it just didn't look like it was going to work out very well. There was a lot of subscriptions canceled.
So were they doing DC May strikes and everything? Like, were they doing copyright strikes with it throughout the whole process?
It ended up not even happening. It was
Oh, okay.
it was basically like, this is going to be what it's going to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it never actually ended up being put into fruition because people freaked the fuck out.
Oh, so they pulled a Twitch.
Yes. Yeah, so they basically kept the same open gaming license that they
Yeah.
have, to where if you make something, it's yours. That's how it works. So, content
Well, it should
creators
be.
could still keep making their content.
Yep.
They can put out, their homebrewed campaign settings and make money off of it because
Yeah.
they made it. It's their right. Um, so yeah, nothing ever came of it, but Hasbro did not start off on the right foot with the D&D community. I think what you're about to say is a better look for them.
Yeah.
So
Before we get into that, it is interesting how many studios, game studios, whatever they create, how many of them have such a maybe it's more the publishers, but how much of them have a almost fascist approach to IP? Again, one of my deep appreciations for Bungie is that they've made all Destiny material 100% free to use, like free use. It's part of the fair use rules. So if I wanted to put music in this podcast and it was just the whole bit of Destiny music, no strikes are going to come. No DCMA strikes, no copyright violations, anything like that. And so I really wish that more creators created work that was like that. That's part of the reason why, in my opinion, the Destiny YouTube community is so strong, is because they get to use gameplay. They get to use things like music. They get to use things like cutscenes and not get their shit taken down. Fun fact, guys. I almost got us a strike this past week. I played some music and I almost got us a strike because of that. And if it wasn't Destiny's music, because initially it got flagged and then it got overturned whenever I repealed it after the upload, they almost took our YouTube video down because we played 30 seconds of Destiny songs. And yeah, I think that's wrong. I mean, I don't know. I know that's a big sidebar, but I get it. I get it. That's it's their IP, but like, we are the people that make their IP like our own.
worth something.
Yeah. Like Dungeons and Dragons, some of the most successful campaigns that I've heard of are not ones that are just read straight out of a book. Maybe they started from the book, but
Critical Role's all made up.
Yeah, it's 100% homebrewed. And it's one of the most popular, if not the most popular, Twitch channel.
It's by far the most popular show.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. It's disappointing whenever they start doing that stuff. But in that being said, because of that, one of the good things that Wizards of the Coast has come out and done is they've actually said that in all of their books, they're going to ban the use of AI content, AI created content. So between the stories, not going to be created by an AI. All the visuals, not going to be created by an AI. And I think that when you're doing something that high level, and something that is so, I don't know how to put this. Like, I don't know the word to use. Something that the only word I can think of right now is so important to so many people. I think that it's awesome that they're doing something that is driven by people. Does that make sense? Like, because it is a content that so many people are so passionate about, because it is people driven, because D&D at the end of the day is a people driven thing. You get together with your friends and you play D&D, right? I think it's cool that they've actually taken a stand and they've actually said, we're going to only focus on supporting local artists and artists that actually
I think
create this.
Yeah, it's cool. But I don't know if you've ever opened any of the D&D books and looked at the art.
The Star Wars one. Yeah. Well, I guess it's not like D&D driven. Whoever did that one.
But like, if you look in there, it's actually really, really cool art. And then I know I follow a ton of D&D stuff on YouTube, and they use like a lot of the art from the books as like their backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really good art. I mean, obviously AI could make that if it wanted to, but that they're going forward with the artists they already have.
Yeah.
Especially with like the stuff that's going on with these strikes right now.
Mm-hmm.
It paints them in a lot better light, I think.
It's definitely PR recovery, but it's a good call.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think let's end it off with a little bit of tech news. I'm going to cut those last two articles. I just don't know if I don't know if we have time for them. So we discussed a little bit ago, how MacBooks, how Apple has actually started to come onto the scene of maybe being a player in the gaming space when it comes to, PCs, personal computers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know that I'm the resident tech nerd here, but Apple's history with gaming has always been really bad. I mean, technically, the original Macintoshes, or not the original Macintoshes, sorry, early 2000 Macintoshes were the last times where it was like a viable thing to play video games on a MacBook, or not MacBook, but Macintosh. Like Marathon, the game that Bungie came out with initially, that was initially launched only on Mac. Halo had a Mac port that was pretty successful. It was actually before, I think, the Xbox port. I think they did PC and Mac and then did it on Xbox. But their relationship with Intel has always made them not really focus on that type of stuff. I would also argue that Apple having Johnny Ive in charge of their design also hurt that. Johnny Ive was the guy that wanted to make every device that Apple ever put out thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner each year. And the thinner you get, the less you're going to be able to fit parts that actually work. And so it's always had a really long history of having very underperforming laptops for a very expensive price, or underperforming in multiple use cases outside of things like creative work, like, Photoshop, video editing, stuff like that. So Apple stepped away from using Intel and wanted to create their own chipset, which is called an ARM architecture. ARM architecture pretty much just works differently than having a standalone chipset where you had to have separate pieces that the chipset does, i.e. having a CPU, having a separate GPU, all that jazz. One of the things that they did with the Apple Silicon is that they streamlined it. It also helps when the manufacturer of the product is the one that's also designing the product, instead of just creating a generic use like which, Intel did with the chipsets. And because of that, they're able to create high efficiency and especially create a chipset that works better for their product. It makes sense. It's kind of hard to do, one chipset that's going to work across PCs and MacBooks. So it kind of makes sense. But all that being said, when Apple actually launched their M1 series chipset, it completely revolutionized how they did their work. No longer did you have to go out and spend thousands and thousands of dollars just to try and get something that worked. You could get it even based off of their most basic model. Up until this past year, for almost 2 straight years, I used a MacBook Air using the M1 chipset. I was fully able to play games like, Civ 6. I was able to edit. I was able to do everything like that. Where it had issues was it actually thermothrottled. And the reason why is because the chipset did not have a proper number of efficiency cores. So the device itself could get, especially because the MacBook Air series didn't have any fans, my device could get anywhere from 220 degrees to 250 degrees was the highest I ever saw it ever go. So what they did on the second reiteration is stop to make it thin and actually create more practical use. So when they came out with the MacBook Pro 14-inch series, they introduced crazy stats for their Pro series chips. And it was the first time where they created truly viable gaming options. So what I have here is a second tier, when I say second tier, I don't mean less. I mean like second rung MacBook for the 14-inch MacBook M1. And I'm fully able to play things like Civ 6, like I talked about. I play Crusader Kings 3, which is a notorious game to being super, super resource heavy on your computer because of how many different actions are happening at the same time. I've also played the most recent Resident Evil game, and I didn't play it on max settings, but I did play it and didn't have frame drops and had a pretty good experience. All that being said, the M2 series added more efficiency cores, also added more cores to the GPU. And what we're going to be seeing with the M3 series is almost a quadruple of the M1. So we can get at their maxed out settings, or sorry, at their maxed out chipset, which is probably going to be the range of like an $11,000 laptop, we can get up to 40 GPU cores and 48 gigabytes of RAM, which is more than what most PC logic boards even support. So, like a lot of logic boards that are more on the budget side max out at 64, and that's for a full ass PC. So the fact that a laptop, 14 inches, very small laptop, can actually do that is pretty impressive. That being said, that very long-winded thing being said, I do think that Apple is going to be taking a very major role in the upcoming gaming sphere. They have more and more games being ported out for MacBook, and they keep pushing it more and more and more. Every single one of these WWDCs that we get from them when they release new, whether it be phones, iPads, MacBooks, iMacs, computers straight up, they always focus on gaming. And so I really do think that they are going to be a major player. And I would venture to say that pretty soon, the best gaming laptops that we can actually get that are going to be a versatile gaming laptop, probably going to be a MacBook. So big things coming down the tech sphere.
Crazy.
It's weird. I mean, it's just weird to think about how much technology has come in such a short, period of time. But I think that's it. I think we're going to wrap up Nerd Network news, and we're actually going to wrap up the episode right about now. I think we're right around an hour and a half runtime, which is pretty standard.
Before we go,
yeah,
what's one song you're listening to lately?
Okay. Yes. So I actually had a pretty good recommendation come up. Where's it at? Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, here we go. A good song that I've listened to recently is called Isola. That's spelled Isola by Jacana People. That is spelled Gacana. People spelled like normal. It's an electronica song. It's got kind of like an indie electronic vibe. Very cool. Very summery. Another one is a song called Falling Down by Tropodeletic. And it has one of my other favorite artists named Nick Hexum. It's a reggae song, which I'm not super into that genre, but it was a very cool and chill song. What about you?
So I think I'm gonna go with I found it on TikTok, but it's called Chin Up Champ by the band Savings.
Okay.
Just a very straightforward pop punk song.
Yeah.
Listen to it on your summer drives in the car.
There you go. Yeah.
And then staying in that same genre, The Story So Far put out their first new song in like 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Called Big Blind. So if you didn't know that, check it out.
Okay.
That's what I've been listening to.
Who else? There was another artist that just released some songs recently. Oh, Vagabond. She hasn't released an album since her self-titled album, and she's going to be coming out with a new album this year, and it's a deviation away from her first album. It's going to be much more electropop, which is kind of cool.
Okay. Kind of a bigger artist. I'm sure people already know it, but Post Malone put out a brand new album.
Yes, and it's actually not bad. Coming from
I
somebody
love
who doesn't
it.
like pop music.
Well, it's like that he can, do pretty much any genre of music and make it sound good is a big thing. And he plays an instrument, multiple instruments. So it's cool to see an artist like that, like as a musician myself, do stuff like that. That's not just, I'm going to talk about my Ferrari or Bugatti. Like obviously there's songs, obviously he does have songs like that, but a lot of it is more like mental health sort of stuff.
Yeah.
If you go like deeper with the lyrics and stuff, which I think is super cool.
Yes. And like we've discussed several times, I do think that there is a difference between an artist who puts out something that is popular and something that just sounds good, and somebody who is a serious artist who has a well-rounded repertoire and creates better work. That's one of the reasons why I like Post Malone. It's kind of like T-Pain. Like, yeah, he's a pop artist. Yeah, he's a rapper. But his stuff is elevated because he's truly talented and not just good at like rapping. That sounds, I feel like that sounds weird. I feel like that's kind of an elitist white mentality to approach pop music, but let's use different artists. I think that's why there's like a difference between an artist like Beyonce and maybe like an artist like Kesha. Not to disrespect Kesha, not to say that she's not talented, but
Love
when you have
Kesha.
somebody who is very round talented like Beyonce, I think that just leads to higher level music. Or Taylor Swift. As much as I don't like Taylor Swift, she's a very talented songwriter, very talented musician. She plays guitar. She plays a bunch of different elements. I think it's just different. But if you do want to do me a favor, send me those links, and then I will this time try to actually correctly link it in the video below for everyone.
Over the music?
Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Well, do it then. God.
Okay, I will. I'm sorry. Don't yell at me.
Okay, one more thing before we go. I don't know about you, Kyle, but I got a lot of very positive reviews from this most recent episode. For me, one of the things that a few of my friends pointed out was they felt like our topic about Keller and Beck was very, the artist that plays Keller and Beck.
Ahmed Best.
There you go.
That was my favorite part of the episode, so I'm glad we got to touch on that. But what did you hear about it?
Well, so that was a very common thing. I think a lot of people really liked that. And a lot of people commented on the fact that they felt like it was much more real, and they felt like it was good that we brought that into the podcast. Let me think about how to approach this. Kyle and I have decided to not necessarily take very strong political approaches to anything that we do on the podcast, just because this is a nerd podcast and we want to keep it somewhat nerdy. However, I do think that Kyle and I view mental health and view, basic humanity, basic treating people with the respect they deserve is something that's important. And we're going to use this as a platform for people to feel more loved and for us to be able to help people feel like they have value, even if we don't necessarily know you. That being said, given what we talked about last week, I think that it would be wrong for us not to talk about what happened this past week in the news. As some of you guys, sorry, I might get emotional. As some of you guys might know, I obviously am a gay man. I obviously am very proud of who I am. This podcast is not necessarily a platform for me to talk about that, but it is part of my identity, so it's going to come up. Both Kyle and I stand very firmly with the gay community, with our trans brothers and sisters, and we love you and we support you. I say that because unfortunately this past week in the news, it has come out that one of my community members has been murdered in an act of pure homophobia, and that is the singular reason that it occurred. It occurred when somebody was doing voguing, which for my community is a very large part of our historical identity. And specifically, it is often very linked with the minority community within the gay community, meaning Black culture within the gay community. Voguing is a very important part about our history. Voguing is a very important part about us expressing our identity through dance in a way that we would not necessarily be able to express with our words. Specifically in the 80s, the Vogue culture was the mainstay and the safest place for people in New York to specifically go to. It's very similar as to why the original Stonewall riots all started over drag shows. A lot of it is very deeply ingrained with our rights as gay men, and very deeply ingrained in our culture. So there's no way to cut what happened. There's no way to dice it any other way. It was homophobia. And for those of you guys who are out there who don't necessarily feel like you can express yourself because of your parents, because of your background, because potentially you're stuck in a religious environment. First off, I survived. I went to a cult. I got put into conversion therapy 3 separate times. I was homeless because I was gay. I mean, I've dealt with a lot in my life because of my sexuality. Please know that it does get better. It gets better. When it doesn't feel like it does, when it doesn't feel like it will, it does in some capacity. It doesn't get globally better, but it does get better. And you will find your community, and that community will make you feel loved, and you'll find your people. All of that being said, Dak, why do you bring this up? It's important for us to talk about this type of stuff. It's important for us to talk about mental health. It's important for us to talk about treating people with the dignity and respect that they deserve. It's important for us to talk about this stuff when it happens, because if we don't talk about it, it just goes swept under the rug. And we let the naysaying voices be the one that dominates that. All of that being said, if you are a trans brother or sister, if you are part of the gay community in any capacity, please know that Kyle and I support you. We love you. We care so greatly about you. And there is no reason why anybody should treat you wrong for something that you cannot control. And you will always find support in Kyle and I, and you will always find love in this podcast. Please know that you all matter. You all are very important. And with that being said, this has been episode 10 of N3rdPod. We love you so much, and we hope you come back next week. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And all that being said, we'll talk next week, guys. Okay. That was a pretty good one. I know that was news heavy, but that was a pretty good episode.
I like that.
Oh, did you hear that crack? That was pretty good.
No, because I cracked at the same time.
It's a really good crack. Okay, so this week, I'm gonna ask my friend. I think I'm gonna ask my friend Snips to try and help me with some of the editing stuff. There's just like stuff that I want to learn how to do, and I am really fucking struggling with audio. So
is there nothing on like YouTube or anything that could help? Or
no, there is. Yeah, that helped with this last week with some of the like color grading, because there was like weird parts where like I don't know if it was my screen recording or something, and even then like other bits like recording in MKV format instead of recording in MP4, because then in post I can edit it. But I'm just struggling a little bit. Sound is where I'm really having issues. Like it may sound good whenever you and I are sitting here talking back and forth, but then like for some reason in the actual recording, it's just different. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm going to probably reach out to a few different friends. I still cannot get a hold of Dan, but I need Dan to tell me how they do this, because they do like a very successful Destiny podcast. And these are guys from like all across the country. And I don't know how they record it. And I don't know how because they live stream it at like really good quality. And I just don't know how they do it. I don't know if they have somebody sitting on the back end as like a producer that's mixing it before it actually gets exported to Twitch. But
if we could help, like we're in a very similar situation. So
yeah. It's just I don't know. It's weird stuff that like you don't think would pop up until after it pops up. But I don't know. But you probably have you eaten dinner yet?
I ate dinner before we started.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Because I was going to say it's late.
Yeah. And I got to be in at 6 tomorrow.
Same.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will let you go. I will try to get to work on this. I feel like there was some desk news that came out. Let me see, because they had their big conference this past week.
Oh, okay.
Let me see where we're at with runtime, and if we have like a spare, like if we have 10 minutes where it's not going to blow the episode too long, I might do like a side hop with Matt and just have him run me through like the Destiny news, because I don't fucking know. But their big their big convention was this past week, and supposedly they talked a lot about some of the stuff that we talked about on the podcast, like the dev abuse and stuff like that. So I'll find out and then I'll let you know. But
okay,
I'll let you go.
Alrighty then.
All right. I will text you probably tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Bye.